My name is Gordon, also known as Mr. Love. That is my actual name. Lots of people say, "Oh, why did you choose that fake name?" I had a big varied career
Hmm.
and it got a bit stressful and I wanted a change of pace. And so I started teaching kids martial arts. By this time I was a father and my own kids. And then COVID happened at the same time as I had some heart attacks. And so I needed to recover from the heart attacks. And I was the grammar nerd that they would
Mm-hmm.
come to ask about weird points of grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put my teaching together with my English informally and started helping people with their English. And I started doing more and more and more. And then I ended up writing an international best-selling book for TEFL. Been a bestseller in India, included as well as the USA, the UK, Australia, Canada, Brazil, Japan, Mexico, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France. I think that's all of them. And
Hmm.
so it was well received, and I decided this seemed to be my calling.
Some learners always confuse pronunciations like feel with fill,
Yes, that's
wait
a particularly common
with
one,
wet.
isn't it?
At times, although they have a level of fluency, but they mispronounce these words where they want to say wait and they happen to say wet. They want to say feel, but they happen to say fill. Okay, how can you train them on word stress pattern?
People often say, "But Gordon, you say you're from Scotland, and I can understand you. I already know I cannot understand Scottish people." I call those the magic phrases. I say there are three magic phrases. The
Okay.
first magic phrase is,
Hello, Gordon. Tell me, how are you? Good evening from India. What's the time at your end?
at my end, it's 2:15 my time. So it's
Hmm.
getting towards the middle of the afternoon.
Okay. So, what
It's a
about your
cold,
lunch? Have you had your
wet.
lunch?
I have had my lunch. I had toasted bread with brie cheese and salami sausage. That's what I had for lunch.
So, already once we have connected, Gordon, and I'm happy, delighted to have you here for the second time. And I want to continue from the same, whatever questions I asked in the previous episode, I'll continue after that. But before that, I would love to hear from you so that my viewers can understand that who the person is and tell about yourself so that they know you in a better way, because some those who have watched your first episode somewhere they must be knowing about you, but still those who are going to watch this video, the second episode, for the first time, and I would request them that if you are going to watch this video for the first time, do watch the first episode. That is marvelous and wonderful explanation given by Gordon that how can you overcome confusions and self-doubt, and how can you boost your confidence, how English can be learned. Over to you, Gordon. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Gordon, also known as Mr. Love. That is my actual name. Lots of people say, "Oh, why did you choose that fake name?" And because it's my actual name. They all think that I'm from Shabba Ranks' Mr. Lover Lover or something like that, and it's not true.
Okay.
It's a genuine name where I live, and I live in the UK, and I have lived and worked across lots of parts of the UK, including working in the City of London for the Stock Exchange and for a big firm of lawyers. I started off life as an engineer. I became a software developer. I then became a management consultant. And then I took a sharp turn into teaching. And for the last few years, I've been teaching English as a foreign language to people all around the world. And it's a joyful thing to be doing, I have to say.
What exactly inclined you from corporate sector to teaching sector? This is entirely different, I feel. Would you like to share?
The
Hmm.
Yes and no. I'll share some of it. Um, some of it becomes a bit personal, but so I started off in engineering, building power stations,
Mhm.
and I was also employed to build software systems on construction sites to help the build.
Mhm.
And then the stock exchange, this is a long time ago, in London, started going towards paperless share trading. Before that, they had printed out share certificates, handed the paper certificate, but they were wanting to move to a system where it was all stored as records electronically. And this turned out to be Europe's largest software project. And they discovered that they needed skills in managing large scale projects. And the most mature use of project management for large projects was in the construction sector, in things like power station builds. In fact, critical path analysis was invented in England by the Central Electricity Generating Board for summer refits of power stations. That's because they needed to cram in a lot into the summer before people wanted to turn the heating on again once it got cold. So the stock exchange pulled in people from engineering. And so I ended up teaching people project management in the finance industry. And I did that for the stock exchange. I became a project coordinator for an international firm of lawyers. I moved to an insurance firm next. And then I moved to the Royal Bank of Scotland. And at that point, I ended up being one of the few people in the UK to be managing groups of software developers from India, often based in India. In fact, after I finished, the RBS ended up setting up a company in India for to use Indian software developers for the British Bank. So I had a big varied career, and it got a bit stressful, and I wanted a change of pace. And so I started teaching kids martial arts. By this time, I was a father, and my own kids, left to their own devices, would sit indoors watching DVDs or playing computer games. And I thought, we need people to be going out and moving about more. And so I set up a couple of organizations, a few organizations, to get kids to be physically active. And I was one of the teachers, but I also employed other teachers as well. And then COVID happened at the same time as I had some heart attacks. And so I needed to recover from the heart attacks. And COVID meant children weren't allowed to be in the same hall, sharing the same masks and equipment. So that all stopped anyway. I had to do my recovery, my rehabilitation. And I found myself in a place full of people who were wanting to learn English as a foreign language, often from India. The place was called Clubhouse. And so I started putting my teaching together with my high level use of English. I'd written reports at the highest level of the blue chip corporate world. I had even done a little citizen journalism as well. And I was the journalist that the other journalists came to if they wanted to consult on grammar. I was the grammar nerd that they would come to ask about weird points of grammar. And so I put my teaching together with my English informally and started helping people with their English. And I started doing more and more and more. And then I ended up writing an international best-selling book for TEFL. It's been a bestseller in India, included as well as the USA, the UK, Australia, Canada, Brazil, Japan, Mexico, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France. I think that's all of them. And so it was well received, and I decided this seemed to be my calling. And I'm, towards the end of my career, as you can tell. I'm not just starting out in life anymore. This is effectively something I'm doing while starting to retire, and doing it because it's very satisfying, very purposive, helping people gain access to what I call the world's telephone system. If you want to talk from one place in the world to somewhere else, English is generally the way we do it. I was sitting at a bar in Spain. So I was in Spain, and three people sat down at the same table. One was from Chile in South America. One was from the Netherlands in Europe. One was from Eastern Russia. And when they sat down it was getting crowded, so they sat down at the spare seats at my table. And of course, they started talking to each other in English
Right.
because that's the language that most people share once you start doing international travel or working internationally. And that's the moment when it really struck me that people aren't speaking English because they want to be nice to native English speakers. They're speaking English because that's the language they've got most opportunity to speak with most other people with. And therefore it's a really useful skill.
Right, right. So I must say that you wore many hats back then, but today I feel that teaching is your true calling and you love teaching. Yes.
Oh,
And I want
absolutely.
to congratulate you for this book, which went bestseller in many countries.
Absolutely. Thank you. And
Okay.
I am genuinely very pleased with it. I even have a t-shirt
Oh,
with it
right.
with its name
Yes.
on.
And I also want to know that you said that your real name is Mr. Love. Mr. Love.
Yes.
We know you with the name Gordon, but you say
Yeah.
Mr. Love. What's the story behind Mr. Love?
And so Gordon is my given name. It means big fortress or big hill fort. And
Okay.
Love is my family name. Ashu, one of my other friends from India, refers to caste name. And so it's my family name.
Okay.
And so my son has the name Love. My daughter has the name Love. My wife is a doctorate in chemistry. So she's Dr. Love, which
Okay.
which I often slag her off. I often make jokes to her about it, being Dr. Love, love, Doctor. And she kind of looks at me and goes, but it's our family surname.
Okay.
My father was called Love, his father was called Love, and my given name is Gordon. So informally, I'm
Okay.
Gordon,
Right,
and
right, right.
formally, if someone wants to say Mister, then Love is the appropriate thing to add.
So I'm privileged and fortunate to have you today here. And I want to further ask you a few more questions, just the questions which were being asked to me sometimes with my students. I want to bring those questions in front of you. How would you respond to those questions? Because I know that everyone's opinion is quite different about different questions. And sometimes when we hear from others, it is quite satisfying. So many
I am
questions I asked you
delighted
in
to
the.
be here with you. The privilege is all mine.
Thank you. Thank you so much if you feel so. Okay. Okay, Gordon. So I want to ask you a very common question and very common problem in English learning as a second or third language in India. Most of us are learning English as third language because Hindi is our mother tongue. So we all know Hindi. And then the native language, regional language, every after 100 kilometers, the language changes. Okay. So we have many languages. So most of us are learning English as third language. Okay. So my question to you is, some learners always confuse pronunciations like feel with fill, feel with fill, and
Yes, that's
wait
a particularly common
with
one, isn't
wet.
it?
Wait with wet. And at times, although they have a level of fluency, they speak, but they mispronounce these words where they want to say wait and they happen to say wet. They want to say feel, but they happen to say fill. Okay. How can you train them on word stress pattern? How can
Okay,
you teach them?
so the pronunciation of vowels
Hmm.
is one thing. I'll talk about that a little, and then I'll come on to word stress patterns after that. So feel and fill are an interesting example. I've said on the previous program that there are really 12 vowel sounds that you need to learn if you want to be able to differentiate, distinguish each of the different words in English for the listener. And these are, if we learn the alphabet, we learn A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. And if you look at only the vowel letters, those are A, E, I, O, and U.
Mm.
Fail, feel, file, foal, fuel. All the words beginning with F, ending in L, for just those 5 sounds.
Right.
And then there are some vowel sounds that you need which don't have letters of the alphabet for them. Oo, ow, and oi. In this case, fool, and there's another one, fool. And then there's foul, and also another one, foul. And then there's foil.
Yes. Right.
And then we've got fall, fell, and fill.
Right.
So those out of everything, those are, let me see now, 11 different words, changing only the vowel, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a different word. And the 2 vowel sounds that we don't have fal and we don't have ful. We don't have those 2 sounds. But
Mm-hmm.
you need A, E, I, O, U, U, ow, oi, and you need a,
Mm-hmm.
I, o, ah. And I call A, E, I, O, and U the tense vowel sounds. So the letter is A, its tense sound is A. We
Mm-hmm.
name them after their sounds. The letter E, its tense sound is E, and so on for the next 3. All of them also have a relaxed sound. Ah, eh, o, ah. Those are the same 5 letters, but a different way of pronouncing them.
Right.
And the other problem with English is it's got so many ways to spell these sounds. Just the first 5 sounds, A, E, I, O, and U. I once counted up how many ways I could find to spell those 5. I found 55 different spellings.
Okay.
English is horribly confusing from the point of view of spelling. There's one spelling, O-U-G-H. I counted 13 different ways to say that sound. You've
All
got
right.
rough, and you've got through, and you've got bow, and you've got thought,
Mm.
and many others as well. So spelling doesn't really help us with English.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to learn these pronunciations as pronunciations. It's no coincidence that the International Phonetic Alphabet was invented for English. In fact, it didn't start off being international, it was just for English. And they found the need for it in the 1820s. So it was invented a long, long time ago for native English speakers to help other native English speakers learn how to speak English. And then the French joined in about 60 years later, and it became an international phonetic alphabet. And often the phonetics of these sounds, the pronunciations, are taught by teaching people the international phonetic alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
That's 165 or so characters, which are not on a keyboard and often don't appear in fonts.
Mm.
And it takes years to learn them. And they're really designed for researchers in linguistics who are researching multiple languages to be able to write papers so that the other researchers into multiple languages in linguistics can read the scientific journal papers. And yet is also often used by people to teach beginners in English pronunciation. And I think that's too much to ask beginners in English. So I invented a simpler system. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the first person to invent a simpler system. There are at least another 7 simple pronunciation guidance systems for English. But mine is, as far as I'm aware, the only one that's been deliberately designed from the ground up for people who are learning English as a foreign language. So
Right.
what I do is I make sure that I get unique spellings from words that you learn early on in your journey. Like the sound A, I use the spelling A-Y. It comes from the word day or pay or say. Those are words that we learn almost at day one. Certainly in the first month, we will start using those words. And that AY spelling is in English only used for the sound A.
Right.
So that makes a really good way of representing the sound A for beginners. And the one that I use for the word or the sound I, A-E-I-O-U, is EYE, the eye in your face. Your
Mm-hmm.
eyeball, your eyelash, your eyebrow,
Mm-hmm.
your eyelid.
Mm.
All of those things have the word I in it. So I is a word that people learn early.
Mm.
So
Right.
that spelling is one that they learn early. They know how to pronounce EYE. It's I. And I use double E from a bee, a little buzzing insect. Bzzz. I use
Mm.
double E to mean E. I use other letters combinations. And so people are introduced to the pronunciations using unique spellings, i.e., there's one spelling for one sound. If you learn Spanish or Japanese, there are only 5 vowel sounds in Spanish. There are only 5 vowel sounds in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish has A, E, I, O, U. Japanese has A, I, O, U, E. And there are only 5. English is 12. You need to learn 12. But Spanish only has 5. So a Spanish speaker will say feel, meaning to feel something, to feel my arm, or to fill a container full of water.
Mm.
They will say the same thing. It becomes even worse when they say things like sheet or beach. They can be mistaken as saying something very rude if they're not careful. So it's worthwhile learning these pronunciations. And so what I do is I teach people the individual pronunciations,
Mm-hmm.
A, I, O, U. I teach them individual words, de, pe, se, be, he, le, me, re. And so I get them to practice just words, just the sounds, and then just words. I build up the number of sounds that they have, and then I put them into sentences, and I give them short stories which use the phonetic guidance so that they're forced to think about the sound of the word, and then gradually they become more complicated stories, and then they start reading articles from newspapers or magazines, and then I start showing them the English at the same time as the phonetic, and that way gradually they get to use the sounds of feel and fill, or wait and wet, goat and got, look
Yes.
and luck. There are lots of these minimal
Right.
pairs that we can practice.
Right. Right. When we
The
were
word stress patterns is slightly different.
right.
English is what's technically called a stress-timed language, and it's a pressure-stressed language. In many Indian languages, it's syllable-timed. Every every syllable takes the same amount of time.
Right. Right.
Not in English. In
Not
English, the simplest way to go about it is if it's a multi-syllable word, if it's a big word, always you can treat it as one of the syllables will be stressed. That means we need to take the stress away from the other syllables to make sure we know which one is stressed. Because you might have the word deepened. You might have the word deep end. You might have the word depend.
right.
Different words, different spellings, different meanings, and
Right.
we communicate that by the different stress pattern.
Right. Right.
Or weakened and weekend,
Yes.
project and project, record and record, all meaning different things. And we can tell that when we're listening because the speaker will say them a different way.
Mm.
Almost no one gets taught this. Almost none of the teachers of English as a foreign language are taught that this happens or that this matters. So when they teach their students, they don't teach the students that this happens. They don't teach their students that this matters. But in actual fact, in English, often it matters more than the pronunciation. People will often, I'm sure you've heard this, but native speakers use lots of different pronunciations. Why cannot we use just any pronunciation we like?
Right. Right.
And the answer is native speakers do something else. When they change a pronunciation, they change it in particular ways. And they also have other things that they do to compensate. And if you make just any pronunciation, you're not following those extra rules. So, for instance, I could say, and I teach my students to say, bottle of water.
Mm.
If you're a posh Londoner, if you come from London and the Southeast and you use standard Southern British, you would say bottle of water.
Right.
Very similar, but different. If you use generalized American, you'd say bottle of water.
Right.
If you live in London, in the same on round London, but you're not posh, you're not educated, high income, high status, you're low income, low status, you'll say bottle of water. If you are from the northeast of the USA, and again you move away down the social scale, people will say bottle of water. But in
Right.
actual fact, the changes are all to do with a little bit of pronunciation, only a
Mhm.
little bit. You're still only using the sounds a and e and a, all of them. There are only three vowel sounds in all of that. And they all stick to those three vowel sounds. No one uses different vowel sounds. They're all
True that.
pronouncing almost exactly the same. And they are all using exactly the same rhythm. Bottle of water.
Mm.
And it's the rhythm that the rest of the native speakers are listening for, because the rhythm's the important thing. There is people often say, but Gordon, you say you're from Scotland and I can understand you. I already know I cannot understand Scottish people.
Right.
Why is it I can understand you? And I say it's because there are some working class accents from parts of Scotland. They use a different rhythm. And all the other native speakers complain that they cannot understand people who use these accents. Instead of bottle of water, is ball of war.
Too difficult to
Instead of
understand,
uh, uh,
actually.
uh, it's uh, uh, uh,
Right.
completely different rhythm. And so no one's expecting that rhythm. And so they don't understand what's said.
Right.
So what I always say to people is try to make sure you get the pronunciation right. And there are several pronunciations possible. And I teach the one
Mm.
that's going to be understood most universally. I teach what I call international
Mhm.
received pronunciation. It's 93% the same as generalized American. It's 93% the same as standard Southern British, and you can measure this.
True.
And generalized American and standard Southern British are only 85% the same as each other. So
Mm.
I'm teaching the one that everyone around the world can pick up on and understand. And that's the best starter accent, I think, because it means you'll be understood by the Americans, you'll be understood by the Brits, the Canadians, the Irish, the Australians, everyone. And you only need to learn one accent.
Right.
And the word stress pattern is more important than pronunciation if you want to be understood by native speakers.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's covered pronunciation
Yes.
and word stress pattern as separate things. So I'm very happy. Thank you.
Right. Even I was thinking the same, Gordon, when I was about to connect with you. I was doubtful whether I'll really get you 100% or not. But honestly telling you, I'm getting you all 100%, not 99.9%. So I'm so happy that I'm able to understand you. I earlier connected with one of the teachers from Cambly, but her root was from India. So somewhere she was sounding more or less like Indians too. But your accent is quite different. For me, it was really hard to understand, but your accent is understandable for all type of learners, I feel. And this is an amazing thing that natives also speak which can be understood. People should not have phobia of native speakers because sometimes they say, ma'am, the problem is I can't understand their accent. We just need to, sometimes we need to pay a greater attention at times, or we should be comfortable saying, please repeat, come again. What's wrong in that? Isn't it?
I call those the magic phrases. I say there are three magic phrases. The
Okay.
first magic phrase is more slowly, please.
Right.
If people are speaking too quickly for us, all we need to say is more slowly, please. I learned that at 14, 13 or 14 for French. I was going to stay in France with a French family for several weeks. And I didn't speak much French. I'd had maybe a year and a half of schoolboy French. And the French teacher who was taking us to France spent maybe 10 minutes teaching me how to say more slowly, please, in French, phonetically. I didn't understand the individual words. I just learned sound, 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 sound. Plus lentement, s'il vous plaît. I didn't know what they meant, but I
Okay.
don't know that's what I should say to get someone to slow down. The next magic phrase is, sorry, I didn't get that. Could you please repeat it for me? You're still being very polite,
Right.
but you're requesting a repeat. And the other thing is, native speakers don't always understand each other. So if you say it grammatically correctly and understandably in terms of pronunciation and politely, you're tapping into something that native speakers do for each other. And
Mm.
we're happy to help other people understand us.
Right.
The next one is, sorry, I didn't understand that word, or I didn't understand that sentence.
Mm.
Could you explain it for me, please?
Mm.
That's magic phrase 3. Now, the important thing is to get the grammar and to an extent the pronunciation right for these. If you get the grammar wrong in this one phrase,
Mm.
it goes from just like a native speaker, this person hasn't understood me. I will put in some extra effort. To, oh, this person can't even speak English. Oh, and now I've got to go over it all again, which is a different mindset.
Right.
So all you need to do is just like me when I was 14. I didn't understand the phrase, but I learned plus lentement, s'il vous plaît. And as long as I said it exactly like that, the French people would be very happy and help me.
Yes. Right.
So
Right.
if you can learn, sorry, I didn't understand that word. Could you please explain it for me and get the prepositions right? So for me or to me. As long as you get it, because if you say, uh, understanding not,
Mm.
explain by me.
They won't get it.
Well, they will get it, but it's no longer a request in English. So
Right.
you're no longer tapping into that habit that native speakers have of explaining for other native speakers. You're now making a different type of request. You're now getting them to explain English for someone who doesn't speak English, which feels like more of an imposition.
Mm.
If people, we all know that doing work isn't always the thing that we choose to do.
Mm.
If someone forces us to do extra work, we don't often respond well to that. If your boss comes in last thing on a Friday, 2 minutes before it's home time, and says, I have decided I need this report done before you leave the office. You have to stay and do that extra work. You don't think, what a wonderful boss. I love working for him. I can't wait to come in on Monday and do more work for him. No, you think, he's going to get me to do more work. I've just spent a whole week doing work, and he wants me to do more when I've started my weekend. And it's the same if someone asks makes the request in broken non-grammatical English, that's extra work. But if it's phrased in English with the right grammar, and you can just memorize the grammar, you don't need to know the grammar, you just need to memorize the phrase word for word. All of a sudden, you will tap into a habit that the native speaker has of explaining things to other native speakers. And it's not seen as extra work, it's just seen as part of the normal flow of conversation. So those are my top tips. The 3 magic phrases, and learn them absolutely exactly. Like you're learning a play, or you're going to read a poem to someone. You wouldn't say, well, I've read the poem and now I'll use some of the words and I'll make up the rest of the words for my poem when I go up to recite the poem. We don't do that. We memorize the exact script. And that's one of my top tips, is if you can memorize that phrase. Sorry, I didn't understand that word.
Right.
Please, could you explain it to me?
So well you explained. Wonderful. Wonderful. In detail,
How did we get onto that? Sorry, I've forgotten the question now, but I'm sure we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah, you explained my question and your answer is very crystal clear, I can say. So let's move on to the next question. That's what resources or apps do you recommend for self-learning and speaking practice? Or how can learners practice without a speaking partner? This is the greatest problem, that I don't have any speaking partner. So how are you going to advise them?
There are now some AI apps coming onto the market for that second set. My experience of them is not that they're really ready for the big time yet. Maybe I just haven't found the right one. So over the next 2 or 3 years, I expect those apps will become better. In the meantime, resources and apps that I do recommend are language exchange platforms, like particularly Tandem. I spend a lot of my time on Tandem now. There's another one, Hi Local, which I recommend as well. And there are some other ones, Free for Talk and Hello Talk. Okay. And Clubhouse. Clubhouse still can be very good for talking to other native speakers, even if you're not in the same city as them. You just go online and there are people from all around the world to talk to.
Okay.
I am a teacher of English and I publish books. So I obviously recommend my book, but also I put out lots and lots of free resources. You can get the first 10 chapters of my book for free, and the whole book is 249 rupees. So, that's the minimum price I'm allowed to charge on Amazon for a Kindle ebook. I also have a Telegram group where I post reading texts, novels, chapters of novels, lists of words. I also post audio recordings of me reading the text.
Okay.
And I also post phonetic guidance. So you can read the text, you can read the phonetic guidance telling you how it should be pronounced. You can listen to me speaking those sounds. And the text is split into short sections. So you can press pause, and then you can shadow, and you can imitate. And then once you've practiced that section, you can press play again, listen to the next one. I do recommend that. If you have experience of graded readers, I think that's a great approach. Comprehensible input and graded readers. That's a great approach for self-learning via reading.
Right.
Speaking practice. How can you practice when you don't have a speaking partner? How can you practice when you don't have access to the internet? Talk to the things around you. If you've got a photograph of a family member, talk to them as if they're there, as if it's not a photograph, but a real person. If there are some ornaments round about your house with faces on them, talk to them as if they are people. If there are some cuddly toys around the house, talk to them as if they're people. In software engineering, this is often called the cardboard analyst or
Mhm.
the rubber duck analyst or the teddy bear analyst. Because if we use speech out loud, we use different parts of our brain, and that helps us think through problems better. So often when you're writing software and designing software, you're advised, and you don't have people with you, you're advised to have literally a photograph of someone or a cuddly toy on your desk. I used to have a little alarm clock for a kitchen timer that was in the shape of a little cow with a little cow face, and I often used it. And or if you're watching a movie, in try watching one in English, and every time a character speaks, imagine they're speaking to you. Reply to them out loud. Have it if people are on the news or on the TV. Talk back to the TV. Listen to what they've said. Respond to them. And that way, lots of the time, you get lots of speaking practice. And if they're talking on TV or in a movie or on a
Mhm.
podcast, you
Mm.
get listening practice as well. So it becomes a two-way conversation. They say something, you listen, and then you say something in response. And so that's the next level up of practice. And so those are my top tips. Comprehensible input using graded readers. The resources I put for free.
Mm.
If any, maybe I can give you a link to let your viewers
Sure, sure.
access. So I've got the speaking challenge, which is I get people to speak 6 short sentences of English,
Okay.
very carefully selected. Technically, they're known as phonetic pangrams. Each sentence contains all the
All
sounds of English.
26 letters.
Yep. And so if you speak all 6 sentences, I've heard you use every sound in English over and over. That way I can assess how your phonetics are, your pronunciations. Actually just the pronunciations. And then what I do is I wait 4 months and I send you a prompt to do it again so that we can listen to how you used to sound 4 months ago
Mhm.
and how you sound now, and we can hear you can hear for yourself the progress that you've made, and
Right.
also I can give you guidance on what things you could still do that you haven't done yet. And also there's a prize draw if you enter the speaking challenge, which is completely free. There's a chance I'll at one point give you a book for free or give you a course for free or something like that. And also, the person who makes the biggest progress in each 4 months also wins a prize. So that's another of the things I do. And like you, I have a YouTube channel. I tend to put little shorts live of idioms or pronunciation guidance, sometimes podcasts a bit like this.
So what's the name of your channel?
Love English underscore EN.
Okay, please, you will share this with me so
I
that
will
I,
absolutely share this.
yes, I'll
I
just
will be delighted
tag
to
your
share that.
channel.
Thank you.
People can watch. So, my dear viewers, you always repent that I don't have a speaking partner. How well Gordon has explained it, that how many ways you can practice. Yes, some of them were really new for me. I also tell them like keep the TV on and keep the subtitle on, stand in front of the mirror and practice. But some of them were really unique, what you told. And if people do it, they would really not feel that there is nobody like watching my son's image. I can imagine that I'm talking to my son. Yes, my mother-in-law is no more. I can visualize I'm talking to my mother-in-law. And that's how, yes, you can talk to non-living people even. Yes, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
You can talk to pictures of cartoon characters.
Right, right,
Anything is possible.
right, right.
The
So
trick is to fool yourself into thinking you're having a conversation.
wonderful, wonderful. I loved all your explanations, and it's going to be a milestone for learners. They are going to get great benefit out of your explanations. And
Thank
now
you very much.
Now I would love to know something about your place. If you can describe where you are at present, how are you feeling there? Is it freezing or it's normal? Something like you are at present, I think in Scotland.
That's correct. I'm currently living in the centre of the capital city of Scotland, Edinburgh. It's
Okay.
famous for Edinburgh Castle. It's one of the big tourist destinations in the UK.
Mm,
London, then Edinburgh, they're the top two.
mhm,
And there are many castles, and there are lots of castles round about in the countryside. Um, where I live, 1 mile away, the man who invented the telephone was born. Where
mm,
I grew up, in a small town in Scotland, the widow of the man who invented the television was living. The pneumatic tire was invented not very far from here. So,
okay.
one of the things about Scotland is we had lots of universities very early on when
Mhm,
there were only two universities in all of England, and England has 10 times as many people. We had four.
okay.
So we've always been quite the steam engine got turned into a useful thing by a man who was a lab technician at my university. But he was a lab technician a long time before even I was there.
Okay.
And Adam Smith, who invented modern economics, was a
Mhm.
lecturer at that same university. The man who invented the refrigeration was a lecturer, a professor at my university. So Scotland's always been very inventive, and we like that about ourselves. It's one of the stories we tell ourselves about how much of the modern world was invented here in Scotland. But it's much colder than India. I think if I came to India in summer, I would melt.
Right. True that. True that. Because here temperature goes somewhere around 42, 44, 45, even beyond that.
I left London because sometimes it hit 34 degrees in summer. That
Right.
was too much for me. 34 degrees was too much for me, and I came back up north.
Right. Right. So it was an amazing session, Gordon. I really loved it. And I really thank you from bottom of my heart for spending your time, precious time, your efforts, and giving your insights for my viewers. Thank you so much for all what you did for my channel. And we'll see you again in the next episode, maybe sometimes.
I hope so too. In fact, I look forward to having you on my channel one day.
Oh, sure. I would love to. I would love
Wonderful.
to. Okay. So I think let's wrap up the session here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. So good night. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.